So, what can we make of the midterms and this so-called GOP civil war that's theoretically broken out? Well, a lot comes around the 2025 gubernatorial elections that occurred in Jersey and Virginia. The short version is that the GOP ran mediocre candidates hoping to ride the Trump wave. There was no point in the campaigns of Jack Ciattarelli, I don't know how to pronounce his name, sorry, or Winsome Sears. There was no point where they were actually ahead in the polls or even close. Now, the morons out there are saying, oh, this is proof that the voters are disenchanted with Trump, and that means the midterms are already lost. No. Now, yeah, this is a wake up call, and there's plenty of time to correct if they want to. So, let's break it down. The majority of the GOP walked away from the 2024 Trump election with the wrong lessons. Rather than looking at the whole Trump package, they look at the parts that appealed to them. So the conservatives looked at the Trump victory and said, oh, this was a conservative victory. And they thought, well, I don't have to do the whole Trump thing because I'm a conservative and we won. The Republican Party stalwarts saw a Republican victory, so they thought, well, I don't have to do the whole Trump thing because I'm a Republican, we won, so we don't have to do this. So the Republican governor candidates got up and campaigned like it was 2008. The GOP lost in 2008. Why did Trump win, and why did these governor candidates lose? Well, first, in 2024, the Democrats ran a person who was widely perceived as a drunk with below average IQ, who was so stupid that she didn't realize how stupid she was. She was so self unaware, she didn't realize she was incomprehensible. She was so frighteningly stupid that no amount of media trying to protect her could prevent that stupidity from being revealed to the public. Now, contrast that to who the Democrats ran this year. The Democrats running for governor in New Jersey and Virginia, some issues, but in no way could they be classed as barely functioning morons. If you run a traditional pre-Trump style conservative Republican race in a deep blue state against actual functioning Democratic candidates of even middling quality, odds are you're going to lose. So nothing special or interesting just happened. Now, I'm not saying Jack or Winsome were bad candidates. I'm saying they failed to follow a winning formula. Now, if you look at the top planks they ran on, if you were a libertarian, to the right, Christian, or even to the center for positions, most of ones are one people in those groups would probably agree on. However, at the same time, they were very uninspired planks. So here's where they failed to emulate the Trump campaign. First, they lacked the kind of personality that would make them stand out in the media. Other than a few debate outtakes, I saw nothing that would indicate any major impact on legacy media or online media in terms of messaging. They were calm, well spoken, and completely easy to ignore. Nothing went viral. They made no obvious outreach to the Maha movement. They should have had cross pollinating meetups for these groups to have mini platforms to get these people motivated to turn out. The Republican candidates made no real outreach to the libertarians. Trump merely promised to pardon one person and gained a lot of votes. A candidate could gain a lot of votes merely by promising something like an appointment to a key libertarian. There was little out of the box thinking demonstrated. So, just as a contrast, consider someone like DeSantis. Right now, he's pushing the elimination of the property tax, Not going to get into whether that makes sense or doesn't, or how you implement or anything like that. The point is, it's a very powerful image. It resonates with everybody. It's something that might get people to turn out for an election. Or if we look at these candidates, they promised marginal tweaks to the tax code. In fact, one of them suggested freezing the property tax for people over 70. So think about what, just if you want to break that down a little bit, you're talking about the people who are most likely listening to mainstream media, and you're putting out your strongest feeler to them on something that's actually pretty milquetoast. The voter base who put Trump over the top is not the typical Republican or the typical conservative. The typical Republican and typical conservative are captured bases. They're going to vote for the GOP almost under any circumstance. However, the core has to be fed raw meat. However, you can mildly irk these groups by giving some non traditional promises to the rest of the Trump base. The Trump base does not turn out on command like the base party Republicans and conservatives. There needs to be sweetener. Now, the fact that these races were nearly unwinnable was really well known. The people currently online pretending this is a harbinger of things to come are clickbaiters, hucksters, and saboteurs. Alternately, some are just kind of stupid. Pretending there was a victory to be had that was somehow lost is a method to drive a wedge into the mega base in order for neocons, Israel Firsters, and country club Republicans to weasel their way back into positions of power and influence. They will happily wreck the midterm elections in order to get the party back from the unwashed heathen. So, can the mega GOP make midterm gains? Absolutely. However, there are no shoe-in victories outside the deep red areas. Candidates must throw away the old playbooks and find middle ground between what will get votes and what is good for the country. Oh, populism. What do I think will happen? Well, they don't call the GOP the stupid party for nothing. I'd say it's a coin toss at this point. So, tell me in the comments below, were you following these races at all? Were you even aware they happened? Do you think they portend some kind of import that I don't see? Tell me below. Tell me what you think. Smash the like button. If YouTube algorithms brought you here and you're not a regular subscriber, subscribe. Check out my titles. I get into a lot of things. And if you know someone who might find this interesting, share it with them. Thank you for spending time with me this evening. Hope to see you again in a future video.